probably go.
First, the fact was decided that all of us have a set length of time to live of which we have no knowledge outside of the fact. Reluctant to give anyone the responsibility to immortalize our decision into words, either written or spoken, none of us have ever uttered this fact aloud. It is just so. Here we have began living this truth, made truer by its unspoken quality, preventing any misperceptions or translation issues through sound, touch, and heat. Here in Grovella, in the steely theatre of the valley, held by the green mottled and wooden face of the Alps, we live out the beginning of a life, which we have now decided has a predetermined end. The impossibility of knowing when exactly the time you have left to live runs out has, however, invited a second decision, a mystic caveat so brilliant that it must be remembered, lest the speed of our lives lends us to forgetfulness. In the existing lifetime that we have, there is a chance to invent an additional window in which we have given ourselves as an extra, one more week to live. To save arguing between us on how we will know when this one more week will come to be, or if it even comes to be, a third decision was reached. The one more week made true because we believe it might as well be, and therefore is, here and now. With the mountains as our witness, time bends to our will. We have become the implausible proof of extending one's existence, because we wanted to do it now, in Jacopo's creaking alpine cottage, to do it together. But some things are too bright to be kept whole, so this pact was splintered into a story told to smooth out the pressure of it all. A kind of lie given as a woven gift, braided truth, memory, and fiction into one. So we remember glass buried in the base of a mountain, rather than a promise to bend some of our time in our lives together. The story we told at the time started with a magpie. The kleptomaniac who had come to the mountains that year to gut the cottage of its silver. It was a compulsion of his rooted in a genuine adoration for beautiful things, starting after being locked in the silverware cabinet as a very young boy. A child's punishment for his collection of tin foil wrappers of sweeties. But now it had metamorphosized into a love for the thrill of the chase. His jewel of choice was spoons, but he also had a fancy for metallic religious iconography, which of course is why he had come to Italy. Thieves like Danny were the bane to the lives of chefs like Jacopo, who, it being his house, had intended on bringing us here to cook a meal so delicious that he might forget the taste of wine. After all, when he drank, he had a terrible fury. Those who knew him well knew he had a proclivity for magic tricks. Those who knew him better knew the tricks were usually shit. But he wasn't the only unsavoury character in the Alps. That fateful summer, there was also Ben, the poet, who had that spring written the most precious, honest and true line of poetry ever committed to ink, and shocked himself beyond recovery. He now spends his time reading in the hopes of discovering a better line than his, so he can renounce the burden of his brilliance. He has never told us what he wrote, but it must have been good. So came Mika, the American, the skeptic, and the intellect, whose reason we largely ignored, mostly due to her accent. And Maeve, who we first thought to be a ghost, as she had a clairvoyance for the hidden and seemed to know what we were all thinking before it was said, though it was later discovered that she was the revenant spirit of a local horse who, for some inexplicable reason, chose to spend its summers with us. I was there too, there as the rememberer, the holder of things, and largely the drinker of wines. Most notable achievement that week amounted to a special friendship with a fly, who followed me about whilst the rest had gone to bed. After these brief introductions comes the myth, where Lucy, the ephemeral beauty and devout Catholic who had converted after a broken toenail bled onto the floor a perfect likeness of Madonna herself, bought her holy toe with a basket of superstitions her and her partner Flavio, the Lionheart as we used to call him, had gathered after years in the region, which they thought might amuse or unnerve us. Luckily for our tale, Ashani the mystic never took anything regarding the supernatural, the occult, or the alchemic as a joke, and if she ever felt unnerved, it was usually a sure sign the myth was true. She demanded Flavio to recount the myth pertaining to this region. With Lucy crossing herself, he complied. A long time ago, perhaps whilst the order of things was still being settled, where trees could grow roots up and the birds still flew upside down, two girls who wished to live forever travelled to this valley in order to commune with the spirits. It is said that in the heat of summer, much like this one, all those souls who are buried at the foot of the mountain come to the surface, so they might warm themselves against the sun. It is a long-held misconception that hell or purgatory are hot places. They are rather quite icy. Whilst risen so close to the earth, where below and above walk together, these two girls buried a bottle of water in the dirt. The myth maintains that being so near to us, some of the eternal life of the dead diffuse through the glass. She who drinks it may partake in immortality. Not a lot of it, but enough. Not everyone was eager to trust in the myth which Flavio had recounted, though we knew he would not knowingly deceive us. Mika, the skeptic, was the least enthusiastic, arguing that it would be a waste of time to try and find some more of it. Jacopo groaned in agreement. The preparations for his mighty feast would surely be delayed. Danny, as he often did, sided with Ashani, perhaps moved by her belief, or more likely, confusing this story with one with treasure found at the end. Some ideas have already begun dancing before you even hear the music. So it was started, a venture into the mountains, to find the water which might, we supposed, between us, give a week extra to live. It didn't take long for the group to tire. The sublime figure of the landscape had already unsettled Ben's poetic sensibilities, and the rest were hungry, so had started bickering. It seemed obvious, when Lucy's holy toe began to pang with pain, that she and Ashani must break off from the group and follow in the tread of those two who came so long before. We were only clouding the knowledge which they already possessed themselves. Because this is a mystic story used to hide a deliberative truth, all things happen as they should, and journeys which would wind our characters away from their tasks simply do not exist. So Lucy and Ashani, balancing each other out through their shared belief in a higher power, though one a little scarier than the other, found the spot which they felt sure the water infused with a little more life was hidden. And so it was. I think people of our age sometimes begin to reconcile a truth which only comes with experience. Serendipity, or a coursing of things unknown but predestined, are real, and life is fateful, in the most literal sense, full of it, over-brimming with it. At least these were the easy thoughts skipped down the hill back to the cottage where the rest of us were to be found, arguing pedantically about nothing specifically, but almost everything we could think of. Almost as soon as we had given up on our part of the mythic bargain, Jacopo had returned to the cottage to cook the feast that would surely change all of our lives. So delicious, so full that not even the finest of wines could rival its flavour. Jacopo's magic came through food. It brought back colour and sound to us.
Hey, beautiful.
Hey.
I've been thinking about you.
Really? What have you been thinking?
Lois.
And so it was. The feast was had. We laughed as we had before, talked as we had before, ate as we had before, but our weariness and misted memory of a story of eternity spent together made every joke brighter, every bite more sumptuous. Jacopo need not forget the flavour of wine, as there was another beverage on offer, the water from the mountains, presented with a smile by Ashani, and drank by her friends with a gesture which both suggested they were indulging her fancy in this story of old, and that they too possessed a glimmer of hope that it was real. We still do not know if that week was extra, a special pocket in our life's anorak which we could fit unnoticed, but for a moment we lived as if it was. Does it really matter if it's true?
Thanks for this beautiful day. We divided up and we, I think, did some beautiful things in separate ways. Some was interrupted by rain, but that doesn't matter. And thanks for everybody's patience with one another. Thanks for who have patience with me when I lose my patience, which has increased. And thanks to my patience when I have patience with other people.
Oh, cheers! Cheers!
Yaki and this beautiful place. Oh, baby! Cheers, cheers, cheers.